Look, I've made quite a few Zion Williamson videos at this point in time, but if there's someone like Skip Bayless getting paid $8 million a year, yes, you heard that correctly, $8 million a year, to talk about how LeBron tied his shoelaces wrong in the morning. Did he have orange juice before he brushed his teeth? Yeah, pretty much every single thing about LeBron James's life and how it's wrong. But anyways, he's getting paid $8 million a year. To do that, I can make a couple of extra Zion Williamson videos because the reality is they don't actually perform that well, but I just like making them. So if you do enjoy these types of videos, if you enjoy any of these types of videos, a like really helps out a lot. It would be much appreciated. And subscribing to the channel if you're new, it's free to do and it would be much appreciated around here. So that would be all I ask from you. But now, I think there is good reason to talk about Zion because although it seems like just 30 games ago he was doing things that we haven't seen before, 30 games later, he's doing more things that we haven't seen before, and now it's tangible records. He is now actually breaking feats of not players that are in their second year, not players who have played 67 games. No, he's breaking records that have stood for a long time, some of which have stood for NBA history. Well, he's not breaking them yet, but he's on track to breaking them with the season he's having. So I think there's a good reason for me to talk about Zion. And instead of just talking about how good he is, we're going to do that, but we're also going to talk about the numbers and some tangible evidence behind the kind of season he's having just in year 2. Let's start with the number 23. Yeah, one less game than he played all of last year, but it's also the number of games in a row that Zion has now scored 20 points or more. And that is a record for players under 21 years of age. That beats out LeBron James and Luka Doncic, who did it for 20 consecutive games. That is 23 for Zion, and it's climbing so far. Let's hope it continues, fingers crossed. But it gets better. Oh, it gets much better because you know those 23 games that I just alluded to before? In all 23 of those games, he has not once dipped below 50% from the field. Not once has he shot less than 50% in 23 consecutive games, scoring 20 plus points or more in all of those games. What are we even talking about right now? Let's just look at the only other player in 20 years to do this, which is Shaquille O'Neal, who had a streak of 25 games 20 years ago. And here are the numbers comparison. During this 23 game stretch, Zion is currently averaging 28.8 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists on 65.8% from the field. Yeah, you heard me. 65.8% field goal percentage. And 73% from the free throw line as well for people who think he can't shoot free throws. Let's compare this to Shaquille O'Neal, one of the greatest players of all time, during one of his best stretches of all time. 30 points a game, 60.5% from the field, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 53% from the free throw line on nearly 40 minutes a game compared to Zion's 33 minutes a game. Now, this isn't me trying to compare the two. I was just an infant. I don't really know what I was doing. You'd have to ask my parents, and we're not doing that right now, but basically, it's pretty impressive. Just from the numbers perspective, this is Shaquille O'Neal smack bang in his prime on, the best team in the NBA versus Zion Williamson playing with Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, and well, Zion's putting up better numbers. Again, this isn't saying who's a better player because, well, we know who's a better player at this point in their careers, but just the numbers are just jaw-dropping at this point in time. It's ridiculous. And if we just go one bit further, just looking at his true shooting percentage, which for those who don't use this metric, it's nothing crazy. It's basically just takes into account free throw percentage, three-point percentage, and field goal percentage. But his true shooting percentage, nonetheless, over those 23 games is 69.5%, which for reference is 12.5% over league average. The true shooting percentage climbs pretty much every year because three-pointers become more prevalent, players are better shooters now, but it's still 12.5% above league average. You compare this to Shaq, who was doing phenomenal as well. He was 9% above league average at a true shooting percent of around 60. This is phenomenal. This is just unheard of. So he's putting up these kind of numbers in year 2, and the only player to have a longer stretch of games of 20 points with 50% or more field goal percentage is Shaquille O'Neal, and Zion is coming for that title as we speak. But moving on from the Shaq comparison, here's another good stat for you. In NBA history of players who have attempted on average 15 or more field goal attempts a game. Not a crazy criteria. 15 or more field goal attempts a game. Your favorite player probably attempts that amount of game. Unless, like me, your favorite player is Joe Ingles, which I guess that's probably most of the people watching. So who cares? 15 shots a game, getting back to the point. Zion currently has the highest field goal percentage of anyone in NBA history. That includes Shaq. That includes Kareem. That includes Kevin McHale. You can name whoever you want to say. Wilt Chamberlain? Yeah, sure, that includes him. And Zion has currently a higher field goal percentage than any of those guys in their best seasons ever. Year 2 this guy is in. Oh, talking about Kevin McHale just before, Zion will be the second player in NBA history, if he maintains this pace, to average over 25 points a game on 60% shooting or better. That is ever. That is in NBA history. Yes, your Wilt Chamberlains, your Charles Barkleys, your Shaquille O'Neals, they came very close, but they didn't quite manage to get over the line. Zion would be the second player to do this, with Kevin McHale doing it 30 years ago. There's just not much else you can say about someone who's doing things that we haven't seen from a player of his age, or just from a player full stop at this point in time. He's also on track to be the third youngest player in NBA history to average 25 points a game. That seems like an easy stat for him at this point. It's like, that's it, Zion? That's all you got coming for you? Third youngest player in NBA history to average 25 points a game, beating out Luka Doncic and falling just short behind LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Oh, and another thing is, his true shooting percentage is about 10% above league average, like I mentioned. Those guys were about league average during their phenomenal years, in which they were some of the best players in the league because they're LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Luka Doncic. But just saying, his efficiency is about tenfold better. That's just the kind of numbers we're seeing from someone. It's just not even normal. It's inhumane. I don't understand this thing, but we're going to continue on. Just another thing that I thought was interesting. Like I mentioned, he's someone that played 20 games in his first year, so he's bound to get better. This is like his rookie season, an extended rookie season. You could say that he's getting a little bit better every month, just a little bit, because if you look at the months, every single month, he's scored more points, he has shot a better percentage from the field, his playmaking has generally gone up, he's generally played better defense, he's looked like a better player, and he's led the Pelicans to a better offense. All of those are facts. And the numbers back it up, because this month so far he's averaging 29 points per game on 70% true shooting. Oh, but it gets better, because since the All-Star break, since some of those dunks he missed, come on Zion, make some dunks. Well, he's making them in real games that matter, because since the All-Star game, in 9 games, he's averaging 29 points a game on 72.2% true shooting. 72.2% true shooting. No, I'll catch you next time. That's it. I'm done. My camera better not be out of focus, but that's 72.2% true shooting. That is 15% above league average in his last 9 games, averaging 29 points a game. Moving on. And the thing is with these stats, you hear some of these stats like, oh, Ja Morant was the first person to walk his dog at 8 a.m. in the morning, brush his teeth 3 hours later, and then tie his shoes at a certain date before dropping 17 points on a 23-degree night in Memphis before beating the Cleveland Cavaliers by 5 points, leading his team in scoring in that quarter. You know those kind of stats? Those are the kind of stats you sometimes see ESPN pull out just to try and make someone appear as though they're doing something that hasn't been done before. Basically, the stats aren't that far-fetched. These stats are basically just saying Zion is someone who, at his age, regardless of his age actually, is putting up scoring and efficiency that is pretty much unmatched in the history of the NBA. When people say, oh, this guy is breaking the NBA, he's kind of breaking the NBA. He's kind of breaking the NBA. Coach Rick Carlisle said it best after he dropped 38 points on them in a win. He has a Shaq-type force of nature with a point guard skill set. Michael Malone the night before said he was practically unguardable. These are coaches of 2 very good NBA teams, 2 very good NBA coaches just saying, yeah, we don't know what to do with him. We don't know what to do with this guy. We just practically don't know how to guard him. There's not really 2 ways about it. People say, oh, sag off on Zion. It's easy, just like Giannis. For starters, Giannis in the playoffs does not actually underperform that much. That's an overblown narrative. That's for another day. But sag off on Zion. The thing is, you hear what Rick Carlisle said about his point guard level skill set? Yeah, he's got some of the best touch. He's got one of the best handles for his size in the league. If you want to take a charge from a 280-pound Zion going downhill, be my guest. But another thing is, he can move around you. He's not some guy that just gets tunnel vision and he's like, oh, there's someone standing in the way, I'm just going to try and bowl him over. Now, he realizes if he's in a position where he could take a charge, he'll kick it out. He'll go around you. He'll lay it up. Trust me, you don't think teams have tried to sag off on him? You don't think teams have tried to block up the paint? It just leaves a lot of open shots. I've seen teams prefer to put 3 bodies on Zion, 1 in the paint, 2 people at the perimeter, and just leave 3 open shooters instead of letting him have a run at the rim. So once he gets good shooters around him, which he's got decent shooters around him, the Pelicans are just going to be dangerous. The Pelicans are just going to be dangerous. And I mean, we may as well say it because they already are dangerous offensively. And this all comes from Zion. Since he's become more of a lead ball handler, a lead scorer over the last 33 games, the Pelicans have had the third best offensive rating in the league, which is up from around middle of the pack. You look at the teams around him, the Utah Jazz, the Brooklyn Nets, the Blazers, the Nuggets. You see the names of the teams, and you know the names of the players that are on those teams. Those are the best teams led by high-powered offensive players. And, well, the Pelicans. How are the Pelicans third amongst all of those great teams? I've got one answer for you. His name is Zion Williamson. I've said his name a few times, and I'm not getting tired of it because he's doing things that we haven't seen before, and I'll continue to make note of this because it continues to get more and more ridiculous. He's also doing this while playing alongside Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams. Say less. Say less. Oh, is it because Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball? Those guys have had good seasons. I'm not going to try and discredit them, but you just look at the last 3 games. Lonzo hasn't even played in those 3 games, and they've still had the number 1 ranked offense, with Zion carrying that load. Brandon Ingram had a terrible game against the Nuggets. He hasn't played that great over the last 3 games. Still had the number 1 ranked offense. What else can I say? And, well, yeah, Zion could get better defensively. It's definitely overblown. He's not a terrible defender. He's just a below average defender, which how many players at his age having this kind of offensive load are above average defenders? Name me some. Name me some. I could be wrong. Actually, that's a trick question because no one's putting up this offensive production that he has put up at his age, so you can't name me any. Sorry. Just a few other stats. These are some more of those ESPN Ja Morant brushing his teeth and then waking up at a certain time to break this kind of record. He is the second player over the last 25 years to score 95 points on 75% shooting over a 3-game span. Joining Shaq is the only other player to do that. Zion has now had 5 games with at least 15 field goals attempted while shooting 80% or over, which is the most since Charles Barkley 30 years ago as my light goes out. And how could I forget that the only person over the last 25 years to average more points in the paint is Shaquille O'Neal, the big diesel. Is he someone who can perform in clutch situations? How could I not make note of that? There's a reason that I've been mad at the Pelicans not giving him the ball enough in clutch situations. You know, it's because he's 71% true shooting percentage in clutch situations in 21 games. For reference, that's better than LeBron. That's better than all of those guys that you probably rate as some of the best players in the league. I'm not saying he's a better player than them, but efficiency-wise and scoring-wise, potency-wise in the clutch, he's as good as anyone. I think Damian Lillard is the only one on more volume doing more than Zion. And we know how good a year Damian Lillard is having. That's all I've got to say. What else is there to say about Zion Williamson? Did your jaw drop to the floor? Did you even know what I was saying half the time? I probably didn't know what I was saying half the time, but I just know they're damn good numbers. That's pretty much all I've got to say. Zion Williamson is breaking records in year 2 that were held by players, some of the best players of all time in their primes of their career. You can just laugh. You can just laugh. That's it. Have a good day. Catch you next time. I'm out. I'm done.